As business owners, entrepreneurs, family men, it's difficult for us to find the time to put together projects like these. Even though it's something we really want to do, unfortunately, taking care of the things we have to take care of comes first. However, because of viewer support for people like you, we're able to continue doing this. Please consider joining our Patreon and supporting the Burn and Return podcast. You're listening to Burn and Return, a weekly 1-hour podcast covering news from the agricultural and turfgrass industries. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of Burn and Return. We are going to be flying through a list of the headlines of the week with myself and my two lovely guests here. Mr. DeMay, how are you doing in this last episode of your current abode?
You know, it's bittersweet, but it's time to move on and do something new, so looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And Ray, sir, talk to me. How are you?
Well, it's Sunday afternoon where I'm at. Sun is not out, so I'm kind of sitting pretty at the moment.
That sounds nice. And it's funny in the little pre-show talky bit. It was I asked Ray what he was up to, and he held up a plate of homemade biscuits. And I gotta say, it looked so delicious. And back to this kind of underlying conversation we continue to have about Ray actually being from the South, even though he resides in Hawaii. He is Southern by the grace of God. And to prove it, he had a plate of homemade biscuits.
Yeah, I decided that after working all morning, I needed a snack to go with my afternoon coffee. So biscuits in oven before 2 p.m. Hawaii time.
Right. I'm glad you're here, sir. And DeMay, you too. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this week's headlines.
Nothing to fear here. This is just the news.
Just the news it is. And headline number one we are covering is an article coming out of California. And the headline reads, "Development of a statewide pesticide notification system moves forward." The California Department of Pesticide Regulation, known as the DPR, is moving forward, which is, I'm going to make a note right now. That sounds a little bit similar to what do they call North Korea? The what is it? The DPRK?
Yes, the DPRK. The
Interesting. California is so closely aligning themselves with North Korea. That's a joke, by the way. That was totally a joke.
I get the joke because I watch what California does because, as an aside, Matt, anything California does, Hawaii goes ahead and adopts it and then doubles down on it.
Which is interesting. And I think in this article, we can talk about some of those things. They are moving forward with the process of developing a statewide pesticide notification system. Effectively, what this does is it would notify surrounding areas of when a pesticide application is made. I quote here from the article: "What could the system consist of? What should it look like? When should it kick in? Is it all chemicals? Is it just restricted use chemicals? Should it apply to any type of application? Is it a ground rig or is it only aerial application? Should it be if I'm a half mile away or anywhere within the state?" Now, I got to say that the problem that they ran into is that when they announced these, people showed up in protest of the applications. And I don't know about where you live, But here's the thing: if there is someone physically in the way when you are going to make an application, that creates a problem because you're exposing someone to pesticides, right? And as responsible use applicators, that's something we are very in tune with, keenly aware of. And it's not rude in that instance to say to someone that walks out to you when you're attempting to make an application to say, hey, go back inside. I'm applying. You don't need to be out here right now. And so even though they're there to protest, at the same time, you're not going to stop a farmer from making an application. And so they need to know that they need to maintain a certain level of safe distance or just go away. Or they don't need to know when this is going to take place. Maybe they could be notified after the fact, right? So here they say that primarily this is a paramount concern for farmers and ranchers. However, there are questions as to the necessity of pesticide notification system that covers the state in its entirety. In a recent group meeting, the question of incident data showing for a need of statewide approach was asked. ISM said that barring evidence from an actual legitimate need that is backed by data, a statewide notification system would cause more harm than good. I quote, nobody in this country has a pesticide reporting system like California does. Nobody in this country has an approval system, especially for restricted use materials, like California does. We do it as safe as anyone in the world. I can guarantee you that. And he ends this. They're trying to find a problem where one doesn't exist. So we're pushing back on it. Thank God. I think this is absolutely insane to have a notification system like this. We maintain records as applicators that are inspected by the Department of Agriculture. That's a fairly tight level of oversight that we undergo. Some states have a little bit more budgets to better enforce this than other states. I can say at Tennessee, I was inspected a minimum of once a year, where my pesticide inspector would come in, go through my paperwork, tell me what I did right, tell me what I did wrong, allow me to make adjustments, use it as a teaching moment. It wasn't a 15-minute meeting. It was a 2-hour meeting, 2.5-hour meeting, and they were genuinely there to help to make sure the products I was applying, I was doing so safely at rates that were safe, and that I was I'm up to date and in tune with everything else going on in the surrounding area that I can be aware of. For instance, the state is prosecuting this person for making these infractions. Be aware of it, that it's a sensitive issue right now. Like, for instance, there for a while, one of the big things they were enforcing was people spraying glyphosate, landscapers spraying glyphosate in flip-flops, right? And the majority of the time, what was big being pushed in our area was not Ranger Pro, was not Roundup Pro. It was Roundup Quick Pro, right? So the one with Dicot. And these guys are out there barefoot spraying Dicot and glyphosate, right? And it's not the glyphosate aspect of it that's so mind-numbing. It's the Dicot piece of it that is incredibly risky and dangerous and beyond just health and unhealthy. Now we're moving into territory of dangerous. I digress. All of that to say, we have layers of insulation upon us already. Is it necessary for us to have a reporting system that is going to notify surrounding areas? I believe New York does this same thing too, where you have to notify people within a certain vicinity. Is it necessary? Is this the appropriate action? Is this the appropriate reaction to whatever perceived threat that they see right now?
I don't think so.
Go ahead, Ray.
You know what I think this is, Matt? This is just a move to do what I call is a de facto virtual ban on any kind of pesticide application. That's what it looks like, because like you described, what happens when 1,000,001 protesters show up at a golf course or show up at a private property or show up on a farm to protest a scheduled application and it can't be done? And of course, you insert that fact that you can't exactly tell them, no, you have to leave, because then you are then violating their First Amendment rights. I mean, this just turns into a shed fire. I mean, because for me, I hear what you're saying about how the industry is scrutinized rather heavily as is, because I have 2-hour meetings with the Hawaii Department of Agriculture as well, and they end well, provided that they don't find any patterns of violation. So
Yeah,
I don't
and I
think I don't think I don't think that this is needed.
and I think that is the premise and the reasoning behind the Department of Agriculture doing that is to look for trends in the wrong direction, right? Ryan, do you
Mhm.
get have you had to deal with the Department of Agriculture on these types of things? And I know in your area where you live, I've heard about you having to help write certain things of reduce risk pesticide applications and stuff like that. Where does this fall in on your scale? Is it necessary? Is this something you want to see in your area?
No, here's the thing: is that let's just say, let's take this public-private, right? Because there's a lot of turf applications that are done on public ground, right? Less so than what happens on private, property. And then so in those cases, I don't understand the need, other than we have there is I know it's a law in Pennsylvania. I think it's a law in Ohio here too, that if you have high sensitivity and you live adjacent to a property that will apply uh, pesticides, for example, that you can ask them to furnish you written notice within 24 hours. But that's only if you have a note from a doctor stating what condition you have that would make you highly sensitive to certain applications. This thing is kind of like Big Brother, right? And I don't think anybody in our industry that's reputable and knows what they're doing, right, and isn't out there spraying one day and one day only in 25-mile-an-hour winds. But anybody else that's sane and practices, good sound agronomy is doing the right thing already, like what you just said, Matt and Ray, right? So what's the need for this extra layer of scrutiny to let everybody know ahead of time what you're doing? I don't get this. um, I agree with what the article says about creating a problem that's not there. Tell me what you're going to do with this information and with this data, right? That will help us become better applicators, right? And surely, with that outcome in mind, there's got to be a better way to get to that point. Like we've got this just seems like it's really far reaching, and there probably are some more common sense approaches to even try and get there first before we invest $10 million and take this step. And let's just be honest here, it's going to cost more than $10 million. Like there's just no way. A state of what, 50 million people, right? There's no way that this is only going to cost that. And you got to think too that California, there's a metric thrust ton of pesticides going down in California, right? And the other thing too, Ray, you might know a little bit more about this, but qualified application, I can't remember what it's called, QAC, right? Out in California, they
Mhm.
have some of the most stringent testing and licensing standards in the country. So why go
The
lump all this
certified
other stuff on there?
Yeah, the certified pest advisors, they are like basically under a microscope, and they've got the proctoscope also inserted in the correct place. So they are under serious scrutiny. Now, as is, let me tell you guys something about Hawaii law. Did you know that as is, records of application are basically public knowledge? Once
Yeah,
they
you have.
transfer from my hands into the Department of Agriculture's hands, or say uh, Monsanto or Syngenta with their seed corn operation, they transfer their records over to the Department of Agriculture, those records become public information. And here's where it goes bad. Then that information is taken out of context, for example, because what happened in Hawaii is, for example, people got all freaked out because they said, "Oh my God, I don't believe these seed corn producers. They're using restricted use pesticides. What are they doing? This is near my kids. Oh my God. Oh my God. But guys, guess what classifies as a restricted use pesticide in the ag world?
Yeah, I mean it's got to be some heavy
No,
stuff. No?
no, not even heavy stuff. Okay, here, guess what's used in cornfields? Bifenthrin, cypermethrin, permethrin, lambda-cyhalothrin. And when those are labeled for large-scale agricultural use, they are all federal RUP, Matt.
Oh, I did not know that. That actually makes sense because I had somebody ask me about a bifenthrin formulation that was an RUP, and I did not know why. I was like, "That's bizarre," but
Okay,
that
Matt.
makes great sense now.
Okay, when a pyrethroid product is labeled specifically for use in residential lawn care or residential pest control, it is not an RUP. But
Yep.
once it is labeled for application to field crops, it's federal. It's federal restricted use. So that
The only
very
thing.
subject
Go ahead.
became the subject of a big freak out. And that's why there's no more seed corn production in Hawaii. It's all gone.
Here's my question, and I know we've talked about it, in certain senses of just how mission critical, right? What agriculture truly is, right? To this country in particular, but really the world at large is, when, to what lengths do we go to protect? And I'm not saying just, shit on the environment. That's not what I'm saying. Just saying, at what point do you protect these just like any other basic utility that we have, like the electrical grid or like our water sources and things like that, right? I know some of those kind of go hand in hand. There's some interplay there, but people being able to go onto private land and shut something down because they were notified by a government reporting agency that something lawful that they didn't agree with was going to go down. I don't know. I mean, I agree with the First Amendment right to protest, right to gather, to assemble, all that kind of stuff. But we're not talking about the Nazi rally here, right? I don't know. It really rubs me wrong. I think about some of the unintended consequences, but we'll see. Right, California, baby.
Well, in the love and vein of Big Brother and the all watching eye, our next article comes out of India. And boy, oh boy, Amazon Retail launches agronomy services to empower farmers with technology. Sounds great, right?
Oh,
Amazon Retail has launched its agronomy services to empower farmers through an initiative that gives them timely advice and enables them to make accurate decisions on actions required for their crops. This includes introducing machine learning technology to better produce and build a robust supply chain infrastructure. We're excited by the role we can play in empowering Indian farmers and the agricultural community through pioneering technology that improves farm yield, quality of fruits and vegetables. Part of this whole thing is not only are they acting as a certified crop advisor, they are also working to improve the refrigerated supply chain issues that are currently exist in India. Right, so less spoilage, less waste. Amazon is coming in. They're going to solve the world's problems as related to agriculture, gentlemen. This listen, I've got I don't know. I don't want to be that guy. I do not want to be that guy, and I don't want to sound overly conspiratorial.
it's a safe space, Matt. Please be that guy.
Amazon is moving into pharmaceuticals, I believe. That's one of the talks
Yes,
I
they
hear
are.
on a lot of the stock market channels, right? Now they're going. So we've got healthcare, home goods, and now agriculture. They've moved into grocery as well, too, right? So, at what point are they actually trying to take over our life? Because clearly they are now influencing literally every facet of it.
Like 20 years ago, they started. I mean, really, but
Where does it stop? I mean, where does it stop?
you got to give these credit though. Give them credit though. This is
It's
like,
brilliant.
oh yeah. I mean, it's buy my shit on a whole nother level, right? Ray,
Yeah,
like
it's brilliant.
somebody. Hey, all due respect in the world to develop an app and push out needless product alerts and give you links to soil test results that you don't need and stuff that you don't want. Bezos is doing this before you even think about it. You don't even need somebody else's shitty app for turf because Bezos is going to come in here and just feed it to you, right?
Yes,
It's coming.
yes and no. Yes and no, because you see, I really don't care too much about Amazon right now because, to Amazon's credit, they are not dictating policy. You see, they're staying in their lane and they're just providing sales and service because, for example, my signal that Amazon is dictating policy, for example, is when they go in and you see all of those listings for, insecticides and herbicides. Here in the United States, when Amazon goes in there and yanks all of it because they deem that it doesn't meet environmental standards, for example, that's when I've got a problem. But Amazon to date has stayed out of it. However, on my side, I'm always wondering how in the world do people get their hands on some of the stuff that they, are applying. And you know what? It's possible to get MSMA on Amazon.
Well, maybe some of the corporate conscience comes from the fact that they pay, like no corporate taxes or anything like that. But hey, I'll give them credit. They do a lot of good in the sense that they've changed commerce, forever, right? And that's going to bleed down into like what Matt was saying, everything that we see, touch, and buy, right? Or any way that we can be influenced to buy something, and that's just going to be the way it is. Um, I I
Here
don't know,
and
just
another positive look on it, I guess, too, is they what they did as far as market research. They may have identified that they can increase food production out of India by X number of percent. That's going to help poverty by X number of percent, improve health and quality of life by X number of percent. And if the altruism there, um, kind of maintains, and they are able to deliver on that. And because here's the thing, really, when it comes down to agronomy, basically whenever you're dealing with any kind of advisor or consultant or whatever the case may be, everyone has kind of their own spin on it, right? Even if you're looking at the same data sets, there's a little bit of variability that can take place just based on one's experiences and education. It influences the way you do. Who's going to standardize that? Is it going to be standardized? Is it going to be standardized at the individual who's actually doing the training, or is it going to be standardized by Amazon? How is Amazon going to standardize that? What data sets are they using? Are they using BMPs from agricultural universities? Are they doing their own proprietary set of BMPs from Ola Lala Wawa Washington, or whatever that place is, has all their proprietary stuff out there? Is it going to be secretive? Is it going to be public? Is it open source? How does all of that look? And so it's definitely something I for sure want to pay attention to, and how it kind of shapes what those programs, how they're shaped out as they develop. Also, having nothing to do with any of the conspiracy ideas that we may have tap dance around there, we do have some positive news, and we'll just kind of hit the highlights right now, but we'll do a little bit deeper dive when we get to the returns because I did some fairly deep research into this. But the headline reads, Hemp plants pull forever chemicals from soils. Boys, our PFAs, and we've got a bit of a solution. Activists, scientists, and members of the Micmac Nation are working together to rid some of the indigenous tribes' land of toxic forever chemicals by having hemp plants pull them straight from the soil. We all know PFAs are a problem. That is why biosolids have come under scrutiny over the last couple of years and will continue to the point where they'll no longer be a viable fertilizer source, in my opinion. What they have started studying is, well, what if we use, there are certain plants out there that do a good job of actually taking up PFAs. Now, what we have to be careful is that we are not ingesting those things that contain PFAs, right? But is there something we can use to grow that can go into industry or whatever the case may be, where we can pull these out of the soil to keep them as productive and eventually be able to grow food on them again in the event we need to? Hemp may be the answer. Guys, I'm a big fan of hemp production. I think it's something that every country should look at that's capable of growing it. For its many uses. And I'm not saying just purely for that we need to get everybody on CBD or THC, right? But I'm saying from the standpoint that the versatility of the crop in general is extremely high. And if it can bring value to an area that's contaminated with PFAs, why not? This is great. This is good, positive news, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when you have hemp, you know, grown on land to take up the PFAs, does that then mean that that hemp is then usable in, say, a non-food or non-edible type of a scenario? Because for decades, I've heard about like hemp rope, for example,
Yeah.
and
Sandals,
and
man.
the other sandals. And you know, every day I feel guilty as hell. You know why I feel guilty as hell?
No.
If you connect
There's
hemp
a
and
joke
death
there.
right
There's
here,
a cheap joke
I'm
there.
gonna be
No,
blown away.
no, no. It's because every day I put on my jeans. They're made out of cotton. I put on my undershirt made out of cotton, and then I put on my outer shirt made out of cotton. And I know what an environmental catastrophe cotton production can be.
Ray, you need to wear the same undershirt I wear, which is 100% organic, USDA, Angus beef mat. And that was a pun on the
Unfortunately,
word mat there.
yeah, I get it. I get it. Only thing is that I don't know what I'm gonna have to do to grow that kind of a fur sweater.
I was gonna say you got a pretty good chest hair leotard there. That's pretty form fitting. I'd stick
It's
with
almost
that if I
touching
were
my
you.
neck beard. I'm almost there, boys. I'm inches away.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe we can get some plugs for you. We'll take up a collection at
Put it
GA
right here on the
Live.
crown of my head so I look less pious. I'm beginning to look like a monk or something. So we need to solve that
Oh,
issue
like
first.
yeah. Oh, like one of the Jesuit brothers.
I went to a De La Salle school. The Jesuits are tainted. Changed my mind.
Mm.
Um, anyway, we'll deep dive into that because I did a lot of research into plants that absorb PFAs. So we'll kind of move on to that. But it's important that we touch on this right here, and that is this week's sponsors. Look, guys, we don't want to reach out to Bayer and Syngenta and make promises that hey, look, if you buy my Headway G and apply it to your dollar spot. It may not do anything for you, but it's the best option I got because you can use my link down in the description below. Or if I'm trying to tell you that, your lawn is drought stressed and we need to fix it, I don't have to sell you a bag of Seed Aid, 10 bags of Seed Aid, some extra peat moss to go along with it, 4 bags of fertilizer, 6 bags of seed, a spreader, and a bad application of herbicide, some liquid aeration, and all that other fun stuff. I got a finger up. I'm going to pause. You tell me, Ryan. Tell me.
Oh, I was just going to say, honestly, I'd just buy both. I'd recommend both.
We don't want to do that. And so the way we're able to not do that is by continued support of our sponsors. This week's sponsors, number one is Field Source Ohio. Listen, there are real deal things going on out here in the world, and there are real deal people that solve these issues when it comes to turfgrass management. Field Source Ohio is all of your sports field construction and management needs in one place. This is not just a typical consultant type of role. This is someone with decades of experience in the industry who can manage every aspect of whatever project you have going on. Guys, if you're in the sports turf world, if you're in the ultra high-end lawn care world, if you undergo projects, real deal projects in turfgrass management, this is who you need to talk to. If you're serious about growing your business, if you are serious about providing a level of service that is not seen in the industry right now at scale, this is who you need to talk to. FieldSourceOhio.com. You can sign up for a free consultation. Look, Jay Pink is showing us right here exactly how easy it is. All you need is your name, your email address, phone number, and you can narrow it down. Give them a little bit of information there on the types of services that you're looking to get out there. FieldSourceOhio.com. Go out there, show some support because they support Burn and Return. This is also sponsored by Subvert Nutritionals. SubvertNPK.com. If you are into cannabis growing, it's something that we have been working on for at least the last couple of years, trying to dial this in. And so head on over there, SubvertNPK.com. If you're into lawn care, there's some different things we do on the lawn care side as well. And so if you're into purchasing individual inputs, if you're looking for blended products, if you're looking for micronutrients, if you're looking for amino acids, I'd say there's a little bit of something for everybody there. Check it out, subvertnpk.com. Also, lastly, Hone Health. Boys, get swole. Just kidding. Get checked. Make sure your testosterone levels are in check, because here is what you could be suffering from and have no idea that you're actually suffering. Symptoms of low testosterone: fatigue, sexual problems, right? Things that we don't necessarily want to talk about that can potentially happen. Now, if you drink a fifth of whiskey and you tell me you're having problems with your manhood, chances are we can point that to the fifth of whiskey you consume. But if that's not what you're doing and you're suffering from problems, it could be a symptom of low testosterone. Are you tired, so tired at the end of the day that you just don't have what it takes to be there, to be present and cognizant of your family or your loved ones or your partner around you? If for $45, you can get tested and find out exactly the information you need to know to understand that, is it just a symptom of getting older, and is there something you can do about it? I've undergone the testing. I got the answers I needed. I had incredibly low testosterone for my age. I met with a doctor. Real doctors, real science, real solutions. honehealth.com/grass factor. All right, gentlemen, let's move into this week's burns. Gentlemen, right out of the gate, get it started. Pick up your torches, because here we are. Florida man intentionally hit alligator with lawnmower, destroyed active nest. Wildlife officials say. Daytona Beach, Florida. What a fine area of the United States that is. A man operating a tractor mower is accused of dropping the mower blades on a 6-foot alligator and destroying an active gator nest in Daytona Beach, according to investigators with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. The FWC was called to a property on North Tomoka Farms Road on June 10th at 11:16 a.m. for an injured alligator. A witness told wildlife officials he saw a large tractor with a mower attachment clearing brush around a retention pond. The witness stated he saw the driver scare off a 6-foot alligator by hitting the water with the mower blades and then continue on. However, the alligator crawled back onto the bank, and the tractor operator then turned around and drove back towards the creature, according to the arrest report. The witness said the driver again tried to scare the alligator back into the water, but when the alligator moved farther up the bank, the driver dropped the mower deck on top of the alligator, where it was found with mortal wounds later on. Guys, listen. Yeah, I know nobody wants to hang out with an alligator. They're not exactly tame, domesticated animals. Seriously, don't just go dropping your mower on a fucking alligator.
This is a clickbaity article title here, right, Ray? That's not a fucking lawnmower. That's somebody's brush clearing thing. And then how does lawn get lumped into that, right, Matt? It's just the worst of the worst, right? We just
Having said that,
you see Ray rolling up there with a Cat 310L, rolling it off his lowboy trailer and just mowing the lawn in like 5 swipes. You don't even have to get off the road, Ray. Like that thing's got a 36-foot reach.
I don't, but you know what? A sick ass puppy. Because here's the one line that I don't cross, and you know what that line is?
What's that?
Cruelty to animals.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I think when he goes, I think when this guy ends up in
no go for me. It's just
the
a
correctional
no-go for
system.
me because
anything involving kids or animals, I gotta imagine you're gonna have a pretty rough time.
Problems. You're gonna have problems because you know what? You're gonna have all of these hardcore guys, but they have a soft spot for either kids or animals of all types, and he will be singled out as the sicko that cut open an alligator's back and left it to die.
Yeah, he's gonna probably learn how to operate a tenant zero turn in a prison cell. Business side of
it.
I hate to see it, and I trust me. I'm redneck. I'm white trash. You know, and it's I can understand what was going through this guy's head when he thought that it was a good idea to drop a mower deck on top of a gator. He's like, shit. The only good gator's a dead gator. My daddy told me. I can hear it now.
1000%. That guy was.
How many times have you heard?
He's a Florida State fan.
Know?
He's a Florida State fan. That was what it was. All this was.
You can't do that. Know your local laws and regulations and stay. I mean, dude, you're in Florida. You hear this stuff preached in your head. You know damn well you just can't go out there and drop a mower on a gator. Here's something you can drop a mower on. Bill banning gas-powered lawn equipment heads to Governor Newsom, who may or may not be around much longer. The state legislature passed a bill this week phasing out the sale of new gas-powered outdoor power equipment by 2024, or a date determined by California's air regulators. Leaf blowers, lawn mowers, and other equipment with small gas-powered engines emit staggering levels of air pollution. These noisy machines are terribly disruptive to communities across California, and the workers who breathe in exhaust from this equipment day in and day out face disproportionate health risks, including asthma, cardiovascular disease, and cancer. Meanwhile, advances in lithium battery technology are powering the popularity of electric landscape equipment. For example, Briggs & Stratton, whose name is synonymous with small gas engines, offers a mower battery that it says provides reliable performance, easy starting, and long runtime for more efficient and enjoyable mowing experience. The nice thing here, I guess, if there is a nice thing,
One time.
the bill earmarks $30 million in the state budget to help small businesses purchase zero emission replacements.
Are you fucking
Gentlemen,
kidding me? $30 million? Yeah. Here's hey Ray, we got
how much
you
of
a
a
new
dent
weed
is that
eater.
going to help?
Wait. You said $30 million? So
Yep,
I
to
got
help small
Oh.
businesses purchase zero emissions
that's
replacements.
$30 million
that's a drop in the
divided by
that's a drop in the bucket.
$300.
That's a drop in
That's
the
100,000 of those little ego blowers from Home Depot. So
Mhm.
I can't imagine. We need
Ego
some
is
stab
more
money.
than
Go ahead.
Ego is more than $300 for the push.
push
good.
more.
No,
It's
no,
like
no. I'm talking about the little handheld blower.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
The push mower is what, $400-500?
yeah. And I don't even know
Let me
what
see
the
if I can
zero
find
turn
it.
is.
Look up Mean Green real quick, J Pink. Mean Green mowers.
okay.
I demoed one of these
This-
things 2 or 3
Mm.
years ago.
Mm.
It was pretty BA. It was pretty badass.
Okay.
They've got the solar thing now that they add to it that I'm not sure that you're really getting a whole lot of advantage out of it. But as far as like, number one, quality of cut, and two, like, I mean, the sales rep told me about it, and I was just like, man, this thing's not going to do it. And we went out, we chopped down some tall, thick stuff, Ray. Now, again, I understand in your neck of the woods that this isn't probably your cup of tea, but at least, California, other places like that, they could probably get by with some of this stuff. The zero turn, I want to say it was 60 or 61 inches, something like that. And we had, they got a 74 now there too. Okay.
Oh my
got a-
God, I just saw the price tag.
Oh, it's not cheap.
Oh, how much?
What do you got for the 70? Which one are you looking at?
I'm looking at the Evo 74, a 2020 version, is $40,000.
That sounds
Oh
about right.
Lord. Oh Lord. And
So-
A stand-on 4852 Stalker is $20,000.
yikes.
Now,
Yikes.
it's easy to get freaked out about that. I'm going to play sales rep. We'll role play this one.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's do it.
Safe words pineapple juice. Remember, you want to tap out.
Pineapple juice.
The you got to look at what your savings though on fuel, right?
Yeah.
Parts, downtime, all that kind of stuff, right? So,
Yep.
I that's what I told the guy. I said, you'd have to let me lease this from you for a year, right? To let me figure out if it was financially feasible, right? Now you've got electric costs, right? But that's still much cheaper. Now in California, I don't know what the electric rates are. I don't know any of that stuff. I'm just saying that, again, it's great to say that, hey, we're going to phase this stuff out. We're going to get rid of it. We're going to do all this. But like, what are the downstream effects? And let's be honest too, like, who comes out and enforces that? Hey, Bill's Landscaping. Oh, wait, that steel BR600. Nope, got to get rid of that. Like, what's that going to be like? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure
Okay.
how this all goes down.
Here's my question. Now, if they're targeting like blowers and string trimmers and even like the 4-cycle gas engines on mowers,
Mhm.
here's the thing that I think I told you folks previously. I cannot stand the smell of gasoline. I hate it.
Sure.
Having said that, all of my equipment is tuned and operated in such a way that there's no smoke, there's no gasoline smell, and I'm talking about high-powered gas engined equipment. So what is the problem? I mean, where is this alleged pollution coming from? Because I don't see it unless, of course, let's see, you have all of these landscape people that have this one, Ryan. I don't know if you remember this, but I remember something called Lawn Boy 2-cycle oil that they used to market
yeah.
for their 2-cycle. Okay. I remember seeing that in like a 24 pack. Like it was almost like a a case of my father's Budweiser. Just the cans all lined up in a cardboard box. But
Remember they used to be the little metal
that,
cans with the pop top? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, you throw that can into 5 gallons of gas, and you run that in something like a weed eater.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness gracious me, the smoke, the fumes, and the smell. It was disgusting.
Ray, I don't know
Okay.
if this is, I mean, not in warm season country probably, but here in Midwest United States, the Lawn Boy 21 with you had one wheel that was set back from the other on the right-hand side, did that shoot, and then it had the bagger that hung from this little arm that came out from going down from the handle. It like that was legitimately like the Toyota
Actually,
Camry or Honda Accord of mowers. Like everybody and their brother had that mower. It had that. I just like to press the primer ball because it felt so good. It was like ASMR for your finger, man. It just felt good to
actually,
press that
Ryan,
and feel
actually,
that thing squirt. Oh, seriously, everything about that mower was perfect, and it was 32-1. Ray, that thing ran so rich. You fire that thing up, plume of
exactly.
smoke goes in your face. You breathe that in like a man, Ray. Like the
Actually,
smoke from
Ryan,
cheap Chinese fireworks on 4th of July. You just
oh,
yeah.
yeah, suck that in. Well, by the way, Ryan, you know that Lawn Boy mower that actually
Yeah.
had wide usage here in Hawaii for a long time. And do you know why it had wide usage?
Because
Because it
people
would
hated their lawns.
operate, no, because it would work on grades and inclines where a mower that needed oil in the crankcase would no
Yeah,
longer operate. So
there you
like
go.
people trying to cut weeds literally on a
Hmm.
45-degree grade. A
Yep.
Lawn Boy 2-cycle engine is your ticket because you can't do that to a Honda GX engine because the oil would
Your little flapper,
run up.
your little flapper's not going to keep up. You need the old Reed valve in there on the 2-cycle.
Yeah, exactly, exactly,
Having flashbacks to small engines class.
Let
exactly.
Somebody
me.
doing
So
So,
bump
kind of playing off some comments I was reading from other people there. All right. So, we'll
Sure.
say an entry level mower that we're dealing with here, that is non gas consuming, is we'll say it's $18,000 is kind of where you're starting, for your typical 48, 52-inch mower, where right now, you can get a walk behind for what, $3,000, $4,000.
Sure.
So
5. Yeah.
pretty significant. Yeah, especially with price increases now.
Yeah.
And let's say
Everything
you
is.
spend $3,000 a year in gas for that mower, 3 to 5 thousand a year in fuel for that mower. That's kind of looking into that to see what an average was per mower. So one mower, one weed eater, one blower, you're typically between $3,000 and $5,000 a year. Um, now my other follow-up question would be, how long do these batteries last?
In a
They
day
have a shelf life.
or
No. There's the
oh
lifetime of the batteries. I think about even a cell phone under high usage. After a solid 16 to 18 months, the ability for my phone to hold a charge, and I am an incredibly heavy user. I'm a power user. I run businesses off my phone all day long. I average, there for a while I was getting over 100 phone calls a day this time 2 years ago. I mean, it was absolutely insane how much I use the phone. But in 18 months I couldn't hold a charge longer than 4 hours out of the day. What
gotta send your
okay,
happens
phone
I
to
to
see
home
what
these
you're
health dog.
mowers used in a commercial capacity under these types of circumstances, especially if you're in areas of the country where you're not mowing? You may be doing more brush cutting, or you may be working in um, and I hate to put it this way, but a lower income neighborhood where you're not cutting just Bermuda grass or just fescue or just zoysia, where you're cutting 80% Dallas grass and whatever else is just growing in it, right?
So Yeah, I'm gonna
The
send this link
barrier to
JP.
entry to getting into the industry is going to be much higher. The
Mhm.
cost to operate within the industry would be probably about the same, um, averaged out over the lifespan of the batteries. And then the cost to make repairs is going to go up in the event you have some sort of internal replacement that needs to take place. Because I would put on part that it's cheaper to replace a gas engine than it would be to replace the battery cells that go into these things. Could be wrong. But you would also have to be an electrician to make these optimizations or changes rather than a grease monkey.
Yep.
Can't be the guy in the
And
AutoZone parking lot, right?
No.
nope. And I got another question for you. I'm familiar with the reliability of the California power grid. How does
Good
this
point.
work when PG&E has to shut down because their equipment is sparking wildfires?
I'll tell you how, Ray. You charge it up with a gas powered generator.
Okay, and because here's my little issue with anything battery powered. To me, battery powered vehicles and battery powered engine replacements, such as lawn equipment, it's doing two things. It's outsourcing and exporting all of the pollution. So you, the end user, are not creating a lot of pollution. Instead, the pollution is in the form of that miner in South America or China working under extremely hazardous and unregulated conditions, mining things like lithium, nickel, cadmium, and rare earth metals for the permanent magnet motors. And then pollution is in the form of how do those batteries get charged unless your power grid is 100% solar, wind, or non-fossil fuel.
I
I
want to
think
show you
about
one
that
more thing. Real quick.
anytime somebody
Here.
brings up something battery operated.
I want to send JPink this link real quick. See if I can find a picture of this. So this is
the battery power thing. Listen, I'm all in favor of being able to move over to battery powered things. I love Teslas. I love the idea of battery powered cars. I still think, as we move up the supply chain in this quest of being zero emissions, are we still actually making an improvement, or are we just shifting it from the emissions existing in the United States, or is it moving to increased emissions where we're mining the lithium? Is it putting additional strain on our power grid that's increasing emissions to offset the emissions that we were generating in one place? Now it's just coming from another place.
Right.
That is my question. And there may be more and more data that comes out at this that points to, a net reduction of 1% or 2%. And that may be, what everybody's looking for. And if we achieve that, that's it. Or is it going to turn into one of those things where we start going up the supply chain and we're like, well, now all of a sudden we have, time screwed ourselves, because no matter how we go about solving this emission issue, it's still coming from somewhere, right? It's just where it used to be from all the gas powered cars. Now it's from all the damn mines that we have trying to, go after these rare earth metals to keep everything going. Because you think about it, these are more computer chips that have to be out there, more silicon. It goes ape shit in every which way imaginable. A lot more copper on these pieces. We got to have copper for days to run all the damn wiring for it. You know what I mean? Then how do we
Yeah.
increase the efficiency on the copper wire production? And it goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. I want to know what that looks like, but I'm not going to say that I'm against battery powered equipment for that. What I am against is the government banning it.
Ray.
Yeah, I'm again.
What in the
Yeah.
hell is this, Ryan? This is hang on.
Right.
This
Take
is
a
a
look at this.
radio visual. Radio.
No, I know exactly what this is.
Yeah, if you're
This
listening.
is
Oh shit.
Steele's version of some very high-powered battery-operated equipment. You see that operator basically has several pounds of lithium batteries
22
in that
pounds to be
backpack.
exact.
Yeah,
It's a 22
and
pound battery pack.
so you
Matt,
can
look up
plug
the
in.
Steel AR3000.
Yeah, so he can plug in that power tool in his hand and work for, I guess, a number of hours. Now, my question again is, okay, where does the electricity to recharge that come from? Okay, where does that electricity come from? Because me being the eccentric mad scientist, I want to go totally Jetsons and have a Toro Greensmaster with the e-drive, except
Mhm.
you know what's powering that e-drive?
Hydrogen fuel cell.
No,
Water.
thorium or plutonium.
Oh, Lord have mercy, Ray.
Thorium or
Ray.
plutonium. Send it.
Ray, we are on a short leash as it is. How
Fishing
this is
lawn
what's
care.
crazy is that I know Ray would be like, all right, guys, I got my order of plutonium in. He'd be like, what, you got what in? Yeah, I got my plutonium in. We're not going to say how I got it, but I got it. And boys, it's on. My mower is running like a dream.
Yeah, because that is the only way I see out of this current issue of electric and battery operated equipment creating the equivalent amount of carbon emissions and pollution. I mean, if someone were to be truly honest about electrical stuff, we have to look at, okay, what do we have to burn normally to make that electricity to charge those batteries?
All right,
Oil,
we gotta
coal,
we
or
gotta
natural
move on.
gas.
We're running out of time here, but real
ahead.
quick, I just want to say about that. If we moved over to lawn equipment powered by plutonium or uranium, what kind of disaster are the meth heads going to create next? That's all I'm saying. There's going to be a bunch of midnight wrench turning, and they're going to open this up and then stockpile massive amounts of uranium and plutonium, glow in the middle of night. And I don't know, maybe that makes them easier to identify, and then we can just encase them in lead and be done with it. I don't know. Sounds actually kind of like
Everybody-
positive now that we say it out loud. There's nothing better than encasing meth heads in lead structures, right? France
give 'em a Geiger
threatened with
counter.
legal action. Do what?
I said, just give everybody a Geiger counter. We're good.
France threatened with legal action over use of pesticides. And I'm going to go ahead and say this article's from The Guardian, and I feel like every time we have an article from the Guardian, I get really triggered. The French government is being threatened with court action by two NGOs who accuse it of failing to meet its obligations to protect nature. The Notre Affaire à tout Poligny have issued an ultimatum to the French state for failing to tackle the biodiversity crisis by implementing adequate laws and regulations. The announcement was made at the IUCN World Conservation Congress in the French port of Marseille and will be followed by a civil disobedience rally. What they have done is by allowing the systemic use of these chemicals, glyphosate and neonicotinoids, the French state has failed its duty of care to the country's wildlife, the two NGOs argue. Civil society has been trying for decades to pass on this expertise to authorities and offer solutions in vain. The law must now intervene. The 19th century saw the birth of human rights, the 20th century, the birth of social rights, and the 21st century, the rights of nature. It is time for the French government to be held accountable for the collapse of the living world and to respect its commitments. Gentlemen, how over dramatic is that? There is another quote in here that I saw. The figures of the current collapse are appalling. The generalized decline in biodiversity will have dramatic consequences on the balance of life and threatens the future of the next generations. But I think it was really that line right there that France has single-handedly, or the French government, has led to the collapse of the living world.
Well, I got to say the pot's a lot stronger over there in France. These people. Hey,
when
listen.
we talk about balance, right? We were talking about balance before. Is this moving into the world? I mean, is this just reciprocation of Clown World? Is this Clown World also taking place in France that we recognize here? These are strong accusations. These are strong strong words. And it just sounds like buffoonery. I don't understand how anybody can read this and just be like, boys, I read an article today. France is the number one contributor to the collapse of all things living. And we've got to do something about it.
Oh, goody, Matt. You know what?
Go ahead, Ray.
Here's the thing about these hypocrites. And I'm going to use this word because they regulate and legislate agriculture out of functioning in their own country, but they have no trouble accepting imports from their former colonies in Africa where there are no restrictions on the very things that are banned in the EU. Okay? Because I've mentioned many times on this show and the other show about how that's a sore subject with me, about how we say, oh, no, no, no. You cannot do that in agriculture, say here in Hawaii or in the EU or, in the United States at large. But it's perfectly cool if those things happen in South America, Asia, or Africa. We'll just let them poison their people and dirty their environment, and we'll just take the end product from them. And the French are doing the same thing.
Same thing with the power, just like we talked about with the electric batteries and all that other stuff. This to me, and I agree with Matt, your comment at the top of this, right, is that this wasn't a news article per se. This was written with an audience in mind, somebody who would be outraged, somebody who would be triggered, and somebody who would like and share this, right, to show people their outrage and virtue signal and all the other bullshit, right? And here's the thing, I'm not going to sit here and say that ag in this country or anywhere else in the world is completely innocent of doing crude shit to the world, right? Every other industry in the history of human history could say that the same thing, right? Like everything that we've done has been, with the eye in mind of either making more money, helping people live better, right? And sometimes that doesn't always align with environmental responsibility. All that said, to sit there and say that one government, one country has destroyed the living world, like you've done one too many hits on the peace pipe to come back and say something like that. And really like somebody said that and they didn't say that in jest. Like they really believe that. And that's just scary.
They meant it. I mean, they're basically accusing the French government of being destructors of the environment. Yet, what I know about France and the European Union is once the EU was formed, all the fun in agriculture and turf is over, right, Ryan? Once the EU was formed, all the fun was over because prior to the EU being formed, the EU or Europe did crazier stuff agriculture wise than what we would do in the United States.
Well, and here's the other thing: the EU has already banned the use of neonicotinoids. It's only used in case by case scenarios with permittance, right? With you've got to get approved to be able to use it. It's already under restriction. It's already only being used in case by case scenarios. Now they're saying, you know what? It's not enough. We need to sue the absolute hell out of them, and because people are still continuing to use it. I hate to be this crass. And when I read things like this, I want to meet it with an equal reciprocating viewpoint, right? And my equal reciprocating viewpoint is go ahead, do away with all of it, switch to glufosinate, get rid of glyphosate, do away with your neonicotinoids, and let people start to starve. And then let's reassess it from a more pragmatic viewpoint, right? Where can we find the middle ground between these two? Because unfortunately, that is the type of extreme we play with when we're talking about interrupting food supply. People starving. Who is genuinely okay knowing there are people out there starving? The most torturous death imaginable. We're not there yet, and that's probably why they're having to import things from Africa as freely as they want to and do, is to meet the demands nutritionally of food substance.
Yes,
And
because
when you're putting yourself into this type of situation, I mean, I don't know. How much further is it going to go? This may be tossed out immediately, and it means absolutely nothing. And this is just this is high impact journalism from the Guardian here. And if we go down to the bottom article, they immediately follow this article with, "We have a small favor to ask. Tens of millions have placed their trust in the Guardian's high impact journalism." The only high impact here that they have brought to the table is the fact that this is insane. It's absolutely clown world. It's not fair to address it this way. There's nothing that even promotes a different viewpoint than what's brought up here, and it's trash, in my opinion. Just my opinion. Yeah, gentlemen, let's move on to the returns. La 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 la.
I'm back.
That was me last night at about midnight, jumping on a Zoom with Ryan DeMay. Gentlemen, the first article we have to look at here is Drought Sparks Interest in Water-Saving Alternatives to Thirsty Lawns. Like elsewhere across the state, rain has been scarce this summer at University of Minnesota's Turfgrass Research, Outreach, and Education Center, making it a perfect year to study how well grass can survive in a drought. The University Extension educator, Maggie Ryder, phenomenal researcher, checks on a science experiment that looks more like a big patchwork quilt. She inspects a couple dozen square patches of grass ranging from color from bright green to dingy brown, all planted in different combinations of green seed. One particularly scraggly patch is completely brown with the weeds creeping in along the edge. She says it's Kentucky bluegrass. It's what we've used historically. However, we're seeing now that we may need to make change. It's complete. Then she points to a different with hard fescue. It's completely green, maintained, has great density, and no weeds in this plot at all. The university's research team is promoting different types of grass that require less water and chemicals to thrive. I quote, "That's something we've seen a lot of this year. I think it's gotten people to consider more that what they have in their lawns and what's required to maintain it at the expectations they have." I'd say we're hoping 2021 is kind of a wake-up call to Minnesota home lawn owners. This is now, I didn't get into the part of automations, and Ryan, you shared this, and I'll let you kind of dive into this. This is interesting. Hard fescue has generally been regarded as more of a weed, right? But what we're seeing is a turf type that is resisting extreme drought, is resisting weed pressure. Have we kind of unpacked something? Or let me phrase it this way: from our breeding standpoints as turfgrass researchers, should we be looking at progressing the genetics of these types of turf types and breeding for color, that all of a sudden makes it like a home run in the home lawn world, right?
No, I mean the folks there at UMN in Minnesota have done a really fantastic job of taking what they just observed, right, empirically and anecdotally, with some of the fine fescue species up there, and over the last 10 or so years, especially, really pushing very far, very fast in terms of their research and breeding efforts, right, into uh, those families of grasses, right. So with fine fescues, we talk about hard fescue, we talk about chewing fescue, red creeping fescue, chewing sheep's, blue, like there's a lot going on there. And so I think it's really examining what is going to work, right, in terms of a lawn space, and particularly with these, with fine fescue, very low inputs needed, right. So I think the most important thing here is, are we putting plants out of place, right? That's the definition of a weed, right, Ray? Plant out of place.
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
that this year has identified that Kentucky bluegrass in Minnesota, if it's not highly managed and highly irrigated, is kind of a loser, right? And that's okay.
Mhm.
This is the other thing too, is that I like that they're challenging dogma, right? That hey, if you want to have a beautiful lush green lawn in the state of Minnesota, you've got to have perennial or perennial ryegrass, which doesn't survive the winter up there. You got to have tall fescue. Nope, that doesn't survive the winter either. Now you got to have Kentucky bluegrass. Well, it got its ass kicked this year. So is that really what needs to happen? And we were talking about this before in the pre-show, in the Patreon portion of the show, that evolving thoughts are okay, right? That's the whole name of the game in this industry and in any discipline of science. And this is just another case where I think people for a long time have shit on fine fescue and just said, hey, it's a shade grass. You'll put it in shade mixes or sun and shade mixes just as a component of it and whatever. Hey, no big deal. But now, right, we're finding that it can be a predominant species in a lawn and look pretty darn good. So I don't know, gentlemen. I don't know what you think. I'm enlightened, and I'm hopeful that they can continue to push a little bit further with this and convince people to make the change.
You know, I'm kind of in favor too because, as you know, I am an absolute hater on the convention, in terms of selecting turfgrass varieties, right? I'm also not a fan of people being avant-garde and experimental without actually doing their real homework. Because I was telling you, Ryan, for
Mm-hmm.
me, what is not avant-garde, experimental, and has been tried and true has been Bermuda. And the new varieties of Bermuda that are bred to maintain color and density in spite of, adverse environmental conditions, I'm giving them a second look because, for example, the old standard here was Tiff Green 328, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that grass can be rather fragile. I get it. I understand. But the new varieties, for example, coming out are nowhere near that. Like, take, for example, your Tahoma 31, your Tiff Grand, green as can be with almost no nitrogen applied per year.
Yep.
You can't do that to 328 because if you hold the nitrogen on 328, guess what color it turns?
Great.
Purple.
It, it turns gray, and it thins out, and it can't handle being mowed anymore. But in the case of this hard fescue, that would be something I'd like to see in your average upper Midwestern lawn because, it can handle dry weather. It can get by on less fertilizer. I consider that a positive.
If there's we're under the scrutiny unlike we've never been before in this industry, right? And for UMN to take that head on and provide research driven alternatives to what we're currently doing shows the evolution of the industry. And I think that is, you cannot place the value on that. It's too great. So what I think we should all do, and it may inspire breeders to take these types and develop new cultivars from them that make them even more appealing in even high end lawn situations, right? And then and we have to acknowledge how the growing regions are changing, right? Like I know specifically where I am in Knoxville, and it's not to say this is going to be this way forever, but at least where I am right now, though it's been a predominantly fescue dominated market, Bermuda is performing better here year over year than fescue is. Things are shifting. It makes sense right now to have a Bermuda lawn. It does not make a whole lot of sense to have a tall fescue lawn here, except in very specific situations. You talk about, specifically right plant, right place, right? Are we growing the wrong plants in the wrong places? 100%. 100%. I'm thrilled that we now have a research backed process here for us to be able to take this data and make changes and show that as an industry we are evolving because we definitely are, and I think a light needs to be shown on that instead of like we saw last week, which was lawns are bad, kill them all, get rid of it, right?
Yeah.
The next article here, insight into power generation and photosynthesis may lead to more resilient crops. This is a heady article here. And I'm not going to go too far into the specifics of it, but in effect, what they have discovered is one of the processes that leads to the production of ATP they have been able to map out. And what they are referring to as the photosynthetic complex, PSC1. And effectively, what they have relayed this is to the water level above a dam, an energy generating dam, right? And so they're hoping that now they have been able to identify this process, map it. It will allow them to manipulate these photosynthetic properties through different methods. They even talk about, photosynthetic bacteria for biotechnical purposes, to hopefully be able to produce new plants, new crops that can better withstand the stresses that are faced out in the environment. I thought it was pretty cool. This is on the high end, technical side of plant genetics. And with this being identified, now does it make it easier to go in? Now that we have a better understanding of this, does it make it easier to go in and take advantage of some of the gene editing techniques we have at our disposal now and make changes to plants? I don't know. I don't know that answer. I'm not a geneticist, and I don't even know what really the word gene means. But I think it's cool nonetheless. When we're talking about the evolution of the industry and the evolution of crop production, I think it's an important piece, and I'm glad that we're making headway in it.
I just think it shows just again in people. Here's the overriding message for me is that especially in the lawn care space, people want answers, right? Hey, why is this like this? How did it get this way? Tell me what to do. Just I don't care about any of the how or why BS, right? I don't have a mentor to tell me the why, so just tell me what to do, right? And in those instances, like there is so much that we don't know. There's so much that we don't know, and I'll even tease this out here too. That there's a lot of stuff going around this week about turf truth and all this and that. And you know what? I think it's great that somebody's pointing the lens on things that not necessarily about exposing people and all that kind of stuff, but just the science behind what we do, right? And what we do know. And I think the point that should be taken by everybody, right, turf truth included, is that there is so much that we still don't know yet about turf in particular, right? And about specific turf types and about different species and even different cultivars, right? So much of what we do is anecdotal because the money's not there, the methods aren't there to do this, right? And the will of the industry as a whole is to put it in the hands of manufacturers and people that have the money that are only out there to get more money from you as the consumer. And so I applaud these people for doing something in the interest of science in general, but particularly botany, right, which we will benefit from, that hopefully will, like what Matt said, lead to, improvements of, hey, now we have another metric that we can look at when we evaluate a species or a cultivar, right, coming to market. These are important things, and it's these very, very, very small steps, Ray, that are going to get us to where we need to go. It's not going to be some transformational bullshit product that, puts the red, white, and blue in the bag and everybody gets a fucking burr up their ass and decides to spread it. Like,
Yeah,
that's not the way to do it. It's going to be science that does this.
yes, it's going to
Sorry,
be
I got a
actual.
little fired up.
No problem, because I am all for positive and predictable changes to the genetic makeup and the genetic expression of various things, as long as we always keep track of what happens if. Because me personally, I'm forever leery of certain genetic traits being inserted into plants. I'm leery of it, but I'm in favor of it, provided whoever's doing it goes out and does it and has a very clear eye as to being able to explain, if I do A, B will happen. And
It's a tough
if it's
thing, and
predictable, if it's predictable, if it's controllable, and if somebody doesn't say, "Whoops, I wasn't expecting that. We stressed it up." I mean, as long as
oh
that
yeah,
doesn't
but in here,
happen, I'm okay
but
with it.
here's the difference, and this is the last thing I'll say on this because I know we need to move on. Is that um, it's one thing to do studies on applied science, right? And set up an experiment and pull data and map out the results, right? And that's one study in one short time span of 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 5 years, something like that, right? This is an advancement in science, right? Like, they have mapped this process out, and surely there's going to be more that we learn from it, right, as we continue to go. But this is something that, once we understand how it works, right, there's no going back, right? It's only going forward. If we were to conduct the same replicated research in, another site for whatever product or whatever practice, we might not get the same results, right? So I'm all for these kind of advancements over the product studies and the efficacy studies.
All right, we'll move on to the final return here. And I want to go back to the article where we talk about the hemp plants pulling toxic forever chemicals from soil, right? The PFAs. So, what's interesting about this is what they're trying to do is quantify at what rate the PFAs are being removed from water and soil, right? And what I was curious about is what other plants out there exist right now that have this ability. And beyond that, how would it compare versus hemp, right? We don't have the total metrics as far as what hemp is removing, but we can at least look from a secondary practicality standpoint of what other uses we may have out of these other plants. And specifically, what we have found is uh, Aeriforum angustifolium, which is also known as cotton grass, which is popular in the EU, but it is native to North America, is a very good remover of this specific grass. However, there were no other uses for it. Another one is Salix viminalis, which is also a variety of willow. Has shown great efficacy in removing PFAs from the soil. Again, no other real use for it. And then we also have Carex rostrata, which is more of a traditional sedge that we see. Again, so in terms of what we have identified as a community as being able to solve problems with PFAs from the soil, we have in effect sedge species or willow species, which are, they tolerate growing in wet conditions really well. That's, their primary use. And then we've got hemp. I think it stands for I think the being able to take it as an industrial product and convert it, industrial hemp production where you've got these secondary effects of being used as fibers and various different applications. I think that makes it even greater of an output versus a sedge, because planting a bunch of sedges is fine and great and but there's no net gain on this, right? You've got sedges in place, you're removing it from the soil, but you have no use of the sedge. It's not a harvestable crop, right? Or am I
Sure.
overlooking it? Do y'all know of any uses of sedge out there other than just being a grass?
I don't
No,
know of any.
not that I'm aware of.
I
Just like willow trees are basically useless in my book.
Now, and in this, and I'll end with this right here, is either singularly used, either of these three different species of plants, or used in combination, they were very effective in removing PFAs from the soil. So I think the big piece here we have to make sure is that as we do quantify at what rate the PFAs are removed from the soil, make sure that it is at least at a high enough rate that it makes more sense to industrially manage this land with hemp versus converting it into a wasteland with sedges specifically.
well,
All right,
I'm
gentlemen. What? Go ahead, Ray. Go ahead.
no, I'm just seeing how rather than environmental remediation being a money pit and a hole where you throw money into it, if you had hemp, what if you then harvested that hemp, turned it into fiber, and recouped some of your cost of environmental remediation out of it? Then
Jeez.
I consider that a positive situation.
I think Ray just made a slide on the pitch deck.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm just thinking every time somebody says environmental remediation, I imagine putting money into a garbage can and never seeing that money again. It's gone.
Light it on fire.
Yeah, burn it.
There's a lot there.
Oh man,
Yeah,
so much.
and as the data comes in, I think this will be a fun one to stay in tune with. And everybody that gets nervous around hemp or any cannabis, I think this is going to be great to show a real world application where the net effect is so great that you would be an absolute buffoon to ignore the production of hemp or cannabis in this type of situation. And this is, I'm not a user at all, 100%. That is not the direction I like to go. But I think that the overall net benefit of it just so outweighs whatever perceived negative there is about it, that you would just be, as a society, we would be just dumb to toss it to the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
Gentlemen, let's check out the mailbag.
You've got mail.
This one comes from David, the Bluegrass Buddha for you. I love that name. I am going to be moving my LCO to a more eco-focused situation. I'm toying with the idea of applying most of my nitrogen for the year using a duration CR or a 1-app product. Transporting pallets of fertilizer and loading the ground with crop-producing growth 5 times a year is exhausting, and at this point seems wasteful when I could reduce my overall end use and focus on color, weeds, health, and just being able to do more for my customers all year. Do you have a suggestion or breakdown on these season-long fertilizers? There's
David,
a lot.
you are my people. David,
there's a lot
you are
to
my
unpack
people.
here.
Hey, go ahead.
Dive into this and talk about where this wet your willy. Talking to you, Ryan. I think
Yeah.
Brian may have
think
seized up here.
there he
I
goes.
froze. I froze.
He's
I
back.
froze
He's
for a
back.
second.
He's back.
My camera's about to die too. Anyhow, hey, I think there's a business model here. I really do. We've talked about it before. I think there's a way to do this. and to still make the same amount of money, make better margins, have more customers, right? More throughput because you have more time. There goes my camera. Don't worry about that. I'm still talking. But anyhow, my big picture answer is yes, you can absolutely do it. My lower level answer is David, come on our show sometime this off season because we're booked out through like damn near Thanksgiving right now, and let's talk about it. I think it'd be great. Don't you guys?
Yes, yes. I mean,
One 100%.
let's talk about this and really, pick this apart and put it back together and not oversimplify the answer
Absolutely.
because, you know, I think one app in a Midwestern cool season area that can be a good, good thing provided you know what you're getting into. Provided you know
Yeah.
what you're getting into.
Yeah. Come on the show, David. I'm imploring you, and we'll sick our producer on you, who can be very persistent, by the way, right?
And
He'll get after you.
persuasive.
And incredibly persuasive. Have you seen his smile before? The guy should be a politician. He really should. Pinkerton for president.
I'll vote for him right now.
He's giving me a scam warning. Come on.
About ready to mute your
JP?
mic.
I finally got him to do it.
There is a
Of
lot
all
to
the
unpack
shit I've
here.
said.
Listen, David, there is the way you spell it out sounds great and awesome, but like Ray said, that it needs to be broken down and put back together. It's not quite as simple as you make it sound. There are advantages that you highlighted here that are real. There's also some disadvantages that you have to take into place. Not necessarily many, but you have to understand the timing and the accuracy and the
Yes.
nuance of it and product selection, because they are not all equal in terms of how they release, how they feed,
No.
and you also have to understand what your nutrient demand is going to be over the time period. You have to be more in tune with what your nutrient demand is over the time period that you apply. I feel like
I think
it's not
it'd be a
quite a
good
set
thing.
it and forget it type thing.
Correct. That's the thing. You got to. This is why you need to come on, because one, I want to make sure that we collectively manage expectations the right way, but also I think there is a way to do it. And I think if we went round by round, just like we have with all these other folks, right? I think we can probably, I don't want to say Frankenstein a program together, but I think we can come up with a very logical and sound program that for the majority of this person's lawns, right? Because that's the other thing too, is that this ain't going to work everywhere. You're going to have to know the ones that like this isn't going to fit the mold, and I've got to do something different over here. And that could be tough. So, David, get on the show. Just do it.
Yep.
Don't fear commitment. Just come to us.
One more thing I wanted to talk about here: Thursday. Like Ryan just mentioned here, we are booked up pretty much through the end of November. If it's something you want to be on, listen, it is growing so fast that we are not reaching out to people. But if you want to be on the show, by all means, feel free to contact us. Mail at thegrassfactor.tv. It's more free flowing, more stream of consciousness, and it's purely designed to help the guest who's on, or to be able to bring a guest on that is going to be able to share some fantastic information with you, the viewer or listener, to hopefully help you in either your business operation or even your home lawn. We're not going to be singling out one specific way or another. If you're interested, mail at thegrassfactor.tv. That is every Thursday, except for coming up at the end of September. We're going to have to do it on a Friday because my son's turning 9, and I promised him I would do something with him. That is Thursday at 9 p.m. We do a show before the show at 8 p.m., and then we do a show after the show that is for grown-ups only. It is even more of a free-for-all, fair number of bad words. And if you're into that kind of thing, consider becoming a member at the Patreon, patreon.com/burn and return, and you will get access to the off-air content that we continue to produce. Gentlemen, any closing remarks?
You know, it was a fun show, and I've had this lingering anxiety sitting here since you read the Hone Health ad, because you talked about the fifth of whiskey, which I really don't particularly care for the brown water of any type. But all I could think was, I'm so inadequate because I'm sitting here with the green doc and the liquor dick doc. So I thank you both for being here with a chode like me tonight. I'm really honored that I can sit here with you guys.
Ray, give us one breath of positivity to take in to the rest of this week.
Death.
Yeah, well, and likewise, I'm truly blessed where you guys are not going to stuff me into the locker or the trash can. Or try to, at least. And by the way, the last person that tried to do that, it ended so badly for them. It ended
They
so
no
badly.
longer
What
they
happened
no
to
longer
him,
have a
Ray?
lawn, and they will never have a lawn.
Ray, are they capable of walking? That's all I need to know.
Let's just
With a
say
limp.
With a limp. If you want to help us pick the title of this show, head on over to the Discord, #DirtyDeeds in that particular section of the server. And, if we like your title, then it will be the name of this episode. Check it out. Meet us over at the Discord. Until then, we'll see y'all on Thirsty Thursday.